Hello, this is Larry Winkles speaking to you once again from Budapest, Hungary. Today we'd like to take a look at partnership building in Free Methodist World Missions and see how we can connect missionaries with local congregations around the world and so empower the ministry for furthering the kingdom of God. In order to understand what partnership building is, it's important to know what it isn't. Years ago the term furlough was used, and that often came to mean in many people's minds vacation. Well, partnership building isn't furlough, and it certainly isn't vacation. Later, the term deputation came into use, and that often meant a missionary going to fill a pulpit while a pastor was away on his own vacation. Well, partnership building certainly isn't deputation, nor is it giving pastors vacations. More recently, we've used the term home assignment to mean that time when a missionary returns to the States, travels around to churches, attempting to raise support. While it's true that partnership building contains aspects of home assignment, partnership building is much more than just home assignment. In recent years, a few missionaries have been trying out an experimental program called Flex. Certain aspects of the Flex program have been incorporated into partnership building, but partnership building is not Flex. So what is partnership building? Partnership building is building healthy relational ministries through partnerships between missionaries and local congregations. These relationships are built over time and not just once every 4 or 5 years. What we're all being asked to do is to change our paradigm, to change our way of thinking about missions and about connecting with missionaries. So, for example, home assignment becomes partnership building. Building a connection with and between missionaries and local churches. And this connection implies that it's an ongoing process, something that happens regularly and continuously throughout the year, not just once every 5 years or so when a missionary happens to be in the States and happens to be speaking at a particular local church. Now, because this is such a high priority, it's really important that missionaries and local churches build into their budgets sufficient funds to cover the expenses related to developing and maintaining good and close connections between the parties. Good partnerships are self-reinforcing, for you see, relationships foster communication. And if we have good communication, that communication fuels prayer and support. And if we have the prayer and support, our relationships are reinforced, and so they become stronger. And the missionaries and the local churches are even better equipped and empowered for the ministry that God has called them to. Now, everyone only has 24 hours in the day. We have a fixed amount of time available. Missionaries are no different. And as we consider how we spend our time, we have to balance between the time that we could use building partnerships at home and the time that we could spend on ministry on the field. Now, at one extreme, we could spend all of our time working on partnerships. And if that became our principal focus, then our ministries on the field would suffer greatly. On the other extreme, if we focus exclusively on the ministries at hand and neglect our partners, our support suffers. So we have to find some balance point in between those two, slightly weighted towards ministry, where we have a balanced focus on ministry and on maintaining the partnerships that we've established in our home countries. When this happens, the local churches and the missionaries are both empowered for ministry. Again, because we all have a fixed amount of time, another challenge is how many partnerships can we realistically be expected to maintain? We could maintain perhaps a few high-quality partnerships, or maybe very, very many lower-quality partnerships. So we have here the tension between quality and quantity. If, for example, we do choose to invest in a few high-quality partnerships with our fixed amount of time, we have a danger that the equilibrium of our support could easily be destroyed when a church or two decides to perhaps shift their support to another missionary or to withdraw their support completely. Likewise, if we're spending our time building many different relationships or connections with churches, of necessity these must be of lower quality because we just still have the same amount of time to spread out among many different churches. And the problem here is then that the support relationships, the partnerships, could easily be broken when a church feels that they're not getting adequate or proper attention from their missionary. So once again, we need to find some balance point between the number of relationships that can be maintained and the quality of those partnerships. When this happens, again, the local churches and the missionaries are empowered for ministry. Several guidelines have been established in order to help missionaries build good partnerships at home. First, they will be free to schedule their returns to the United States as they wish, with the goal of their being in the U.S. 12 months out of 60 months. Of course, their return plans need to be approved by their area director, but what this does, it gives the missionaries the freedom and the flexibility to come back as frequently as they need to in order to build good partnerships. Some of examples of this might be coming back every year, every 18 months, every 2 years, or some missionaries may still find that once every 5 years is adequate for their presence in the U.S. Another guideline is that missionaries are able to customize their partnership building budgets according to their needs and subject to a cap or an upper limit that will be established each year by the missions executive leadership team. What this does is allows the missionaries to have a budget that is particularly suited to their particular needs. Some missionaries may not need to pay for housing when they're back in the States. Some missionaries may have higher airfare to return to the States than others. Transportation costs may vary. Or maybe they don't need an outfitting allowance, whereas another missionary that may be starting out may need that funding. In days of yore, missionary outfitting took place once a term as the missionaries packed up their household goods into crates and barrels, loaded them onto the steamer, and sailed off to parts unknown. Our partnership building guideline number 3 recognizes the fact that missionary needs are more frequent than that in these days. So missionaries are free to draw from their partnership building budget on an annual basis as needed as funds are available. This will allow them to keep up to date with computer purchases as necessary, to keep their software updated, to pay for mailing expenses, blog hosting fees, other expenses related to communication, and also to pay for return trips to the United States in order to connect with partners. The fourth partnership building guideline has to do with local churches. Partner churches need to be intentional about budgeting funds to connect with their missionaries. It wouldn't be a partnership unless the relationship went in both directions. Some examples of this would be to budget funds for telephone calls or video conferencing, to send or receive pastoral staff, to send or receive teams, to send or receive short-term workers, and to provide the missionary and their congregation with resourcing and consulting as needed. So let's recap the basics of partnership building. First, we acknowledge that building and maintaining partnerships requires an investment of time and an adjustment in priorities by both parties. Second, contact with partners should occur on an ongoing basis, and frequent visits between the parties are encouraged. Third, we acknowledge that it's difficult to build meaningful partnerships with a large number of churches. Fourth, we encourage creativity in building and maintaining partnerships, making use of any technologies that are available that will help enhance communication. And finally, we establish guidelines to ensure that every party is accountable. You and your church have been given a great opportunity to partner with the work of Free Methodist missionaries around the world. Please don't hesitate to contact Free Methodist World Missions with your questions about partnership building and missionary support. Thank you again for your time today.